Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel, and I appreciate your patience with me getting these videos out. I hope to have them out more often soon. Um, the adversary throws some obstacles in the path of those that are exposing him, which is nothing new. But we all know who wins. The Lord wins, and they're just annoyances and obstacles from the adversary that we overcome by just taking authority and casting them back to the pit. So that's what I did. Anyway, everyone, today's topic is going to be the narcissistic family unit. And again, this is the Christian perspective on narcissism in the world today. And again, from a biblical perspective, I thank you all for listening into the channel, and please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure you share this information with those people perhaps who are looking for a Christian-based perspective on this. Many of you have agreed this is spiritual warfare in the world today. It is much too prevalent. It is growing in numbers that are unbelievable in the world today. Clinical therapy does not help a lot of these types. There's no medication for them. And basically, society on a whole is pretty much enabling them, telling them it's just a disorder, and, that kind of gives them carte blanche to get away with targeting people and being abusive. Anyway, this topic today, let's get into this, is the narcissistic family unit. Now, why do I say unit? Well, how many times have you heard of someone trying to leave a relationship or marriage from a narcissist that is abusive, and then suddenly the narcissist's entire family gets involved and starts, ganging up on the person that wants to leave the narcissist? It seems like the narcissistic family unit of the narcissist gets way too involved. They are like a lynch mob. They work as a unit, basically, against the target. So the person in that relationship was abused and targeted by their narcissistic spouse, and then they have to deal with this whole entire narcissistic family unit on top of it, invading their life, invading their privacy, getting way too involved, and slime campaigning, making life absolutely miserable. But it's a whole group of people instead of just the narcissist. So that happens a lot. It also happens when someone is the scapegoat of their family growing up, and there is a head narcissist. And the head narcissist could be a parent, or could be a step-parent, or a sibling. It could be an extended family member. Whoever this head narcissist is, they set the narrative about the scapegoat, who's also known as the truth teller. The scapegoat is a truth teller. They have great spiritual discernment. They can sense good from evil. They can also spot dysfunction quite well. They're very in touch with their feelings. They call a spade a spade. That's why they're known as the truth teller as well. And they basically are a very feeling, caring, empathetic person in the family. And the narcissist is the one, who sets the narrative about this scapegoat, truth teller, family member. And usually it's a false narrative. As we know, narcissists lie all the time. And they also slime campaign their targets. Well, that's the same in a family unit. The narcissist will slime campaign the scapegoat, give false narratives about their lives and who they are and what they do and what they don't do. And it's very hard for the scapegoated child in the family, the truth teller, to defend themselves. They end up over-explaining themselves all the time. And because they over-explain themselves all the time, trying to set the record straight about themselves, they're seen as dramatic or too vocal or, too demonstrative or too outspoken, too bold. They're called all kinds of different names just for simply defending themselves and wanting to set the record straight. Imagine if it's a big family, if there's lots of siblings. It's almost like a lynch mob is after the scapegoat, because the narcissist of the family is so charismatic and so well trusted and believed when they're pretty much not to be trusted at all. Usually they have a lot of dysfunction in their life. Usually there's a history of abuse behind them, but they somehow win the masses over, just like the narcissists I talked about in personal relationships. They lie, they slime campaign their targets, and they set out to destroy them. Well, that's no different in a family unit. The narcissist in the family unit does not want to be exposed for who they are. They don't want their dysfunction to come to the light. They don't want their bad behavior to be told. They don't want to be found out as the sarcastic, cruel, mean person that they can be. So they will go on the offense and attack the scapegoat or the target, the truth teller of the family, to make sure that the whole family is against that target and that that target is not believed, that they are mocked and devalued, and their credibility is taken away. And that's so the narcissist in the family can hold their high position of power. Basically, they want control, they want power, they want to be seen as the be-all and end-all. They want the supply of all the people adoring them and telling them they're great and having the most achievements in the family. And then the scapegoat truth teller is usually not accepted. They are mocked. Usually they're the topic of gossip and jokes and sarcasm, and nothing they do is ever enough for this narcissistic family unit. And pretty much it's because of the head narcissist and their narrative about them that the other flying monkeys in the family, the other siblings or family members, believe. So the scapegoat truth teller grows up defending themselves always. They grow up trying to prove themselves. They grow up trying to defend themselves. They grow up trying to be overly nice, overly likable, overly helpful, to try to win the affection of the whole family because they've been so brutally abused and misjudged. The family members don't get to know the scapegoat or truth teller on a personal level. The scapegoat has no one to go to in that family unit for support. It's basically the enemy. It's like growing up with enemy family members instead of people that are supportive, kind, and can celebrate the scapegoat's unique gifts and talents. Other families, other healthy families, have a healthy support system within the family where people are supportive and kind to each other and helpful to each other in times of need. Well, the scapegoat truth teller grows up pretty much on their own and always on the defense, always trying to prove themselves, always trying to win the affection, and never believed, never seen as credible, never acknowledged for their accomplishments. And many times the truth teller scapegoat has the most accomplishments in the family, but they are never acknowledged for them. These accomplishments go completely unnoticed and unmentioned by the narcissistic family. That's pretty much how they grow up. Lack of support, mocked, criticized, gossiped about, put down, devalued, due to the head narcissist slime campaign. The flying monkeys in the family, the other siblings, other family members, really are brainwashed by this head narcissist to believe a negative narrative about the scapegoat truth teller, that something is wrong with them. So for the target or the scapegoat of the family, the consequences of this type of abuse that's so close to home, which leaves them isolated and alone in all they do, really, the consequences could be that they look towards something else to comfort them, which would be, drugs, alcohol. Sometimes they have suicidal tendencies. They could have eating disorders, anything to mask the pain of not having that type of family support growing up. it also sets up the target for abuse later on in life. As an adult, these types will have tendency to attract narcissists that treat them even worse because the behavior would appear familiar to them. It's what they know. Unless they recognize the signs growing up of this type of, family abuse, it will just repeat itself later on. So it's very important that people get this information and that they become aware of, the type of hidden abuse in families. And narcissists could be, as I said, a parent or a sibling or extended family, a step-parent. It could be anybody within the family unit that has a position of influence and control and seems to sway other people's opinions about you, sets the narrative for who the scapegoat of the family is and invalidates them. So many times in a family, the facts get distorted. The scapegoat, say if they work for NASA and they became an astronaut. This is just hypothetical, but say the scapegoat is so proud of themselves, they put themselves through school and they became an astronaut with NASA. Well, the head narcissist in the family would set the narrative to the flying monkeys and the rest of the family that, the narrative would be that the scapegoat works at the McDonald's next to NASA flipping hamburgers and not actually being an astronaut with NASA. That the facts get very distorted. And so it doesn't really matter what the scapegoat does. It'll get distorted and twisted and invalidated by the narcissistic family unit. So the scapegoat should do things for themselves because it's what they enjoy doing and what they like to do and what they feel they're called to do, and not to do things to please the narcissistic family unit, because they will always go unrecognized. They will never be validated for those things. So the scapegoat should do things for themselves and for God, because even if they do what the family expects them to do, it's never enough at all. And it still never gets recognized. So just know that. God has special plans for you if this is you in a family unit. If you are the scapegoat, God will many times separate you from your family unit because you have a different calling, as he did in the Bible. So if you look at the life of Joseph, okay, my gosh, if you look at the life of Joseph, he was sold into slavery by his jealous siblings. They were jealous of him. They saw something different in Joseph. They thought he was the favorite of the family that the father favored him more. So they actually sold their brother Joseph into slavery, this narcissistic family unit he had. And Joseph's life was a living hell after that. I mean, he went through trials and tribulations and fires and was a slave. And then he was imprisoned for something he didn't even do. He was a righteous man, but he was never recognized for that. He was incarcerated in prison for something he didn't do. Even though he was a righteous man, that happened. And so because he was patient and because he stuck to his values, God favored him. And he was gifted while in prison with the interpretation of dreams and prophecy. And he was recognized by those in the palace for those gifts and abilities. And he was, raised up to be part of the palace and valued for his gifts. And he was living with royalty at that point. Now, how did he go from the prison to the palace, I ask you? Well, that's God. That's how he rolls. He takes the least likely in life. He takes the outcasts, the ones who are shunned, the ones who are scapegoated, the abused ones, the ones who are overlooked, and he raises them up for his own purpose if they have been proven faithful, if they still have their faith in God, and if they prove themselves faithful and righteous along the way. So always remember that. If you are indeed the scapegoat of your family and, you come from a narcissistic family unit and, you have been scapegoated and the narrative about you has been false and you've been trying to prove yourself by doing tasks and trying to please, being the pleaser of the family, but not getting any type of recognition or acknowledgement, or even having your side being told. You probably haven't gotten any apologies either. That usually doesn't happen. Rather than apologies, you get gaslighted in the family. You get told that those events never happened, that you're too sensitive, that you're too emotional, or they enable the narcissist to make excuses for them, like they're under stress, or, oh, they would never say that. They think the scapegoat is exaggerating. Everything that's done in a personal, intimate relationship with narcissists, that's done to the scapegoat, but in a family setting with siblings or flying monkeys or whoever the enabling family members are. So please remember the story of Joseph. He was sold into slavery by his siblings out of jealousy. Also, David in the Bible, he was tending to goats out in the backyard when people came by his home and spoke to his father. They were prophesying the next king or a future king. And David's father overlooked him, really treated him like he wasn't his son. He was overlooked. And especially overlooked as a future king. He wasn't even considered. Well, who did God raise up? The overlooked son, David, who was in the backyard tending goats. He was raised up to be king. And again, he went through trials and persecutions and a lot of adversity in his life before God raised him up to king. So those are case in points for, the scapegoat of the family. Many times God separates them for training purposes. He isolates the scapegoat for training purposes and to draw the scapegoat closer to God. If you have a family that's noisy and you're all interacting with your family and everybody's involved in each other's business and everything, it leaves very little time to focus on God alone in the quiet times. So many times the Lord, makes himself known to the scapegoats today by isolating you, by keeping you away from your abusers, by having you go through a series of events that are uncomfortable and painful. So you call upon God, so you trust in the Lord solely, and so the Lord can train you and also protect you from the abuse. So if you are going through a healing period, or you have been scapegoated by your family and had to limit your contact with certain family members, or maybe all of them, just know God is there. He is your true Father. And many times there's a purpose and call on your life that you may be unaware of now, but the Lord knows about it, and you are in a season of training. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already to the channel, and please share these videos with those who might benefit from this information, those who might need the Christian perspective on narcissism in the world today. And if you would like one-on-one Christian guidance sessions with me, please email me at angelhavenministry@gmail.com, and I will send you back information on how you can do that. Also, if you would like prayer, please leave your requests in the comments below and let me know if anything in this video today resonated with you and your particular situation. It's always helpful and also gives others support if they are going through the same thing. So I will see you again soon, everybody, and I thank you for watching. God bless.